Week 5 of the fantasy baseball season. Here's a few hitters I looked at off the wire this week. The first hitter, Jordan Beck of the Colorado Rockies. I know it's been a horrible season for this Rocky team. And Jordan Beck, though, he's come up one of their top prospects in the system, and he's really hitting the baseball well in the early going since he got called up. So right now, he's been on a heater with 5 home runs in his last 4 games. He's one of the top pickups this week off the wire on the season for Beck. 5 home runs, 10 RBIs. 9 runs scored, 4 stolen bases, a .256 average, and a .360 on base percentage. So Beck, he only came up a couple weeks ago for this Colorado Rocky team, and now obviously he's up in the major leagues, and with this Rocky team going nowhere, he's going to see a lot of playing time and start every day batting first or second Rocky. So like I said, the last 4 games, he has 5 home runs. In the first 2 games before the last 2, he had 5 homers in the 2 games. So Beck right now, he's catching fire. And like I said, a top pickup this week, April 24th at the Royals, 3 home runs, 3 RBIs, 3 runs scored, 4 for 6. April 25th versus the Reds, 2 for 3, 2 homers, 2 RBIs, a stolen base. April 26th versus the Reds, 0 for 4. And April 27th versus the Reds, 1 for 3 with an RBI. So his strikeout rate definitely is high for Beck in the early going, but the power, I think, could be a big thing for him. In the last season, he had a cup of coffee in the majors, only 170 at-bats, and he struggled. But I think some pop, speed he's going to bring fantasy owners. I don't see much of a batting average or even RBIs that much for Jordan Beck, especially batting in the beginning of the order for this Rocky team. And obviously one of the worst teams in the league and one of the worst offenses in the league. Not a lot of runners at the bottom half of the lineup will get on for him to obviously drive them in. So Beck this week, definitely an ad, and he's available in 79% of fantasy leagues. Next hitter, Jacob Wilson of the Athletics. Jacob Wilson, it's been a good start for him in his rookie season. I know last year, cup of coffee as well for him in the majors. Only 92 at-bats, but so far this year, 3 home runs, 14 RBIs, 16 runs scored, a stolen base, a .337 average, and a .350 on base. So Wilson's been on the list a decent amount of times in the first 5 weeks of the year. And he's not going to obviously take his walks. He's going to be free swing early in the count. First, second pitch, he's swinging out a lot. And hey, it's worked out for him, obviously, in the early going this season, hitting .337. April 23rd versus Texas, 1 for 3, a run, an RBI. April 24th versus Texas, 1 for 5, a run, an RBI. April 25th versus the White Sox, 3 for 4, a homer, 2 RBIs in that one. April 26th versus the White Sox, 0 for 3. And April 27th versus the White Sox, 0 for 4 with a run. So Wilson's going out there, obviously going to be playing every day. He was the top prospect in the system last season. And now with the opportunity, even though he's a free swinger and an early swinger in the counts, he's still going out there making the most of his chances and putting the ball in play. And that's all you could ask for a youngster, especially at a shortstop position that obviously is weak in fantasy baseball. So definitely an ad this week. The next ad is teammate Nick Kurtz of the Athletics. Kurtz, one of the top prospects in the A system, and he actually got drafted last season and already made it to the major leagues last week. So far in the early going, he 4 for 16, 3 RBIs for Nick Kurtz, but he was tearing it up in AAA Vegas for this Athletic team where he had 8 home runs and hitting over 300 down there, and it was time for them to call him up, and we knew that we were going to call him up sooner than later. But like I said, a quick path to the major leagues it was for him, where he was drafted last season and called up. He was April 23rd in his debut versus the Rangers, 1 for 4 an RBI. April 24th versus Texas, 0 for 2. April 25th versus the White Sox, 1 for 3 a rib. April 26th versus the White Sox, 1 for 4 an RBI. And April 27th versus the White Sox, 1 for 3. So not a lot of pressure on Kurtz, batting 7th, 8th in the order for this Athletic team. And we know this A team going nowhere, and it's about the young guys going out there and putting up numbers, and that's what Kurtz did in the minor leagues, and they thought he was ready to come up and play for this Athletic team. So Kurtz getting the everyday opportunity at first base for this Athletic team. He's definitely someone to pick up off the wire. Like I said, raw power. He was a top 20 prospect as well in Major League Baseball, and the Athletics fast-tracked him to the major leagues, where obviously he had the college baseball experience and drafted last season, but now already in the major leagues. Definitely an ad this week. The next hitter, Wilmer Flores of the San Francisco Giants. I know Flores' numbers have dropped off over the last couple weeks, but still overall on the season, he's one of the more productive players in the league. 7 home runs, 28 RBIs, 13 runs scored, a stolen base, a .255 average, and a .305 on base. So Flores, his numbers are already better this season than they were last season, where he's only had 101 at-bats compared to the 214 last season with more homers and more RBIs. So Wilmer, we always know he's mashed lefties throughout his major league career. And we also know this Giant team's off to a hot start, and Flores is obviously a big part of it. He's one of the better RBI guys so far in the first month of the year. April 23rd versus the Brewers, 2 for 4, run 2 RBIs. April 24th versus the Brewers, 1 for 1. April 25th versus the Rangers, 1 for 4. April 26th versus the Rangers, 0 for 4. And April 27th versus the Rangers, 0 for 3 with an RBI. So he's playing every day as Wilmer Flores, except occasional rest here and there for the veteran first baseman, but they also DH him at times as well. And like I said, with good numbers, I know the last couple weeks the numbers have dropped a bit, but still out there in 56% of fantasy leagues. Next hitter, Austin Hayes of the Cincinnati Reds. He's been on fire, he's Austin Hayes, and this Red team's putting a lot of runs on the board of late. So Hayes, he's available only in 61% of fantasy leagues. And Hayes, he had a down year last year after he was an all-star a few seasons ago with the Baltimore Orioles. On the season for Hayes, 5 home runs, 13 RBIs, 14 runs scored, a stolen base, a 386 average, and a 449 on-base percentage. I know it's still a small sample size, only 49 at-bats, but he's mashing the ball. And throughout his career, he's mashed lefties a lot, is Austin Hayes. So right now, he's on a hot streak, even though I don't believe it's going to happen all season long for Austin Hayes. The top pickups off the waiver wire here, and he plays obviously in the small ballpark in the bandbox over there in Cincinnati, and coming off a big road trip at Colorado where he put up numbers. April 22nd in Miami, 0 for 3, a stolen base. April 23rd at the Marlins, 0 for 1. April 25th at the Rockies, 2 for 4, 2 runs. April 26th at the Rockies, 2 for 4, 2 homers, 2 RBIs. And April 27th at the Rockies, 2 for 5, 2 runs, 2 RBIs. So right now, he's on a heater, playing great baseball, hitting almost 400 is Austin Hayes. He's definitely a player to go out there and add, but like I said, it wouldn't be surprising to me if the numbers drop off a little bit. I know last season was a down year. He dealt with injuries, and he was an all-star a couple years ago with the O's, but I just don't believe he's going to play at this elite level all season long. So right now, pick him up, see what he does, or even pick him up and try to put him on the trade block and see, obviously, if you could get a good piece and a deal for him. Next play is his teammate, Novo Marte of the Cincinnati Reds. So Marte, he's been on a tear as well of late for this Red team, former top prospect in the system for this Red team. Then he got busted for PEDs last season, was suspended. It was a lost season for the most part, but this year he's come out and he's playing great baseball, and he didn't even make the club out of spring training, was Marte. And obviously he's filling in with a couple injuries on the Cincinnati roster. On the year, 3 home runs, 15 RBIs, 4 stolen bases, 8 runs scored, a 333 average, and a 381 on base percentage. So right now, I know it's only 44 at-bats here for Marte, but he's tearing it up, like I said, for the Cincinnati Red team. And he was a former top prospect in the system for a reason. PEDs or not, right now he's going out there and he's making the most of the opportunity after, obviously, he didn't make the club out of spring training and playing well for Cincinnati. April 22nd at the Marlins, 1 for 3, a homer, an RBI. April 23rd at the Marlins, 0 for 3. April 25th at the Rockies, 3 for 5, a run, 2 RBIs. April 26th at the Rockies, 1 for 5, a homer, 2 RBIs. And April 27th at the Rockies, 3 for 5, 3 RBIs, 2 stolen bases. If you need stolen bases, some power and RBI prowess, I think Marte could bring that to fantasy owners out there in 70% of fantasy leagues. He's got good pop. Like I said, he was a top 100 prospect for many years and one of the top prospects in the Red system as well. And now it's coming to fruition. I know it's a small sample size, only 44 at-bats on the season, but Marte, he's up filling in for injury, but I don't think he's going to lose the job, obviously, if he keeps it up at this pace. So right now, he's out there in 70% of fantasy leagues. Definitely a hitter to add this week. The next hitter, Pavin Smith of the Arizona Diamondbacks. Smith last season, it was a down year, an injury-prone year for him, but now this year, he's come back and he's made the most of his opportunity, is Pavin Smith for this Diamondback team. And he's mashing right-handed pitching on the year, 4 home runs, 9 RBIs, 15 runs scored, a stolen base, a 348 average, and a 476 on base. He's getting on base almost 50% of the time, which obviously is a very tough feat. I know it's only 69 at-bats here for Pavin Smith, but he's playing great baseball. He's been added in 12% of fantasy leagues over the last week, and he's still out there in tons of fantasy leagues at 64%. April 23rd versus Tampa, 0 for 2. April 24th versus Tampa, 0 for 3. April 26th versus the Braves, 0 for 3, a run. And April 27th versus the Braves, 0 for 3 with a run. So the last couple games, he's definitely been slumping his Pavin Smith. But like I said, he was playing at too much of an elite level to keep those numbers up. at the level they were. So right now, well, he's slumped a little bit over the last 3-4 games. I still believe he's a legit hitter. He's got good versatility, first and outfield. He qualifies for. And I would just ride these type of players until obviously they struggle and really can't get anything going. So right now, well, Smith's still out there in tons of fantasy leagues. He's definitely a hitter I would pick up this week. The next hitter, Kyle Manzardo of the Cleveland Guardians. Although his average is low, but the power is good, and the on-base percentage is good as well this season compared to his average, 100 points higher just about on the year. 7 home runs, 18 RBIs, 12 runs scored, a 210 average, and a 309 on base. And Manzardo, he's going to bring power. We saw it in the minor leagues with him throughout his career, and he went on a heater as well with 4 games in a row from April 19th to April 22nd with a home run in each ball game. So Manzardo, good hitter, good power versus right-handed pitching. Batting average, he's not going to bring fantasy owners, but I think power and RBIs he could bring to a lineup where there's not much pop in there besides Jose Ramirez leading the charge for this Guardian team. April 20th at the Pirates, 2 for 4, homer, 3 RBI. April 21st versus the Yankees, 1 for 3, a homer, and RBI. April 22nd versus the Yankees, 1 for 4, run and a rib. Then 23rd, he sat out in that one. And April 26th versus Boston in a doubleheader, 1 for 8. So that 1 for 8 obviously brought that batting average down. Still early in the season where he's only got Manzardo 81 at-bats, where the average obviously fluctuates high and low pretty quickly until you hit like that 200 at-bat mark. So right now, Manzardo showing power, driving in runs. Just versus left-handed pitching, he's going to sit, and the average might not be great. For power and RBIs, I think he's a solid ad, and he's out there in 65% of fantasy leagues. Next hitter, Dustin Ramirez of the Miami Marlins. Ramirez qualifies as catcher and first base. And this Marlins team, we know they're not going anywhere this season. Another rebuilding year, and Ramirez, they got him in the Jazz Chisholm deal last season with the New York Yankees. So far in a small sample size, he's showing the power, and he's ripping that baseball in the early going, where he's 9 for 19 on the season in the early going. 3 home runs, 5 RBIs, 4 runs scored, a stolen base for Dustin Ramirez. So Ramirez, like I said, one of their top prospects in the system. He's been for the Marlins team ever since they got him for the Yankees in the Chisholm deal. And so far, he's paying dividends, showing power and showing he could be an everyday player and a good player for this Miami Marlins team. April 22nd versus the Reds, 3 for 3 in RBI. April 25th at the Mariners, 2 for 4, homer, 2 RBIs. April 26th at the Mariners, 0 for 4. And April 27th, a monster game at the Mariners, 2 for 5, 2 homers, 2 RBIs. So he's only up a week about is Ramirez, and he's showing monster power in the early going, especially he hit 3 home runs in a series at Seattle, which is one of the worst hitting ballparks in all Major League Baseball. Is pretty impressive. So I think the power is going to be legit here for Ramirez. Catcher and first base, obviously he's good versatility as well for Ramirez. And like I said, with this Marlins team going nowhere, he's going to get every opportunity and some is Ramirez. So right now, well, he's playing good in the early going, up a week with this Miami Marlins team. And batting third in the order, he's definitely in there this week. In the final hitter, I looked at off the wire is Jorge Polanco of the Seattle Mariners. Polanco, he's out there in 66% of fantasy leagues, and he's playing great baseball for this Mariners team now in the season. 7 home runs, 20 RBIs, 10 runs scored, a stolen base, a 354 average, and a 377 on base percentage. So he signed late in the offseason was Polanco. Last year was a down year with the average, with 16 home runs, 45 RBIs, a 213 average, 296 on base percentage. But now he's getting things going, and we know a couple years ago he's one of the better average hitters in the league. April 22nd at the Red Sox, 1 for 4, a homer and RBI. April 24th at Boston, 1 for 1. April 25th versus the Marlins, 1 for 4, a homer, 3 RBIs. April 26th versus the Marlins, 2 for 4, 2 homers, 2 RBIs, 3 runs scored. And April 27th versus the Marlins, 3 for 4 with 2 RBIs. Polanco, he's playing great baseball. The average is way up there in the early going for the Seattle Mariners team of fantasy owners, and where he has good versatility qualifying at second and third base. He's a good add this week, because if he continues at this rate, Polanco, he's going to be added by next week in 50+% of fantasy leagues. That's a few hitters I looked at off the wire for week 5 of the fantasy baseball season.